Welcome back to Foxy Cheating Tales, where we dive into the most unexpected, shocking, and thought-provoking stories. Today's tale is unlike anything we've shared before. It's about resilience, revenge, and redemption, but also the haunting consequences of bullying, violence, and how a single act can change lives forever. My family were professional expats, and I'm mixed race, so I never really fit in anywhere we moved to. Our cultural differences were tolerated to greater or lesser extents, depending on the country and/or economic prosperity of the area. I got used to thinking of the places we moved to, the schools I attended, and the friends I made as being purely temporary. Eventually, it got the point where my mentality became, why bother? Because we'd be gone in 6 months or a year, and all that effort I put into building social connections would have been a waste of time. Needless to say, this mindset didn't make me the most popular shiny new toy. People thought I was arrogant and too good for their company, and I experienced a lot of bullying throughout my high school years. Because I'm a girl, it was mostly verbal, psychological, rather than physical. Except for this one guy, Jamie. It was the second high school I'd attended in the country, and there was a very stark divide between the two kinds of students it had. Middle-class oil workers' children made up about two-thirds of the school, with the remaining third coming from impoverished homes, living partially or completely on government assistance. He was part of the second group. I was, technically, part of the first, and he hated me for it, particularly because I wasn't white like everyone else in the school. Jamie took every opportunity to fuck with me. For months, his attacks ranged from spewing racism at me, calling me a terrorist, a jihadi whore, a raghead, a sand nimmer, and so on, to spilling drinks on me, destroying my belongings, spreading vile rumors about me, tripping or shoulder barging me in the hallways. It went on and on. I didn't bother telling my parents or the school. Previous experience had taught me that school administrators didn't give a shit about non-white kids and their problems. And why should I care if this one asshole wanted to expend all his energy making me miserable? I'd be leaving soon for another school with a different set of bullies, and this guy was destined for a life of alcoholism, state assistance, and 5 kids by different mothers before dying in his 40s. But then my dad got a permanent post at the hospital in the city, and his side practice was doing really well. My oldest sister got engaged to a local. My parents started looking for a house. They'd inexplicably decided on now being the time to settle down, just when I was banking on us relocating. Now I was fucked. I had no friends and a giant Jamie-shaped problem in my life. Not to mention I'd been kind of cruising on my grades because my disrupted education made it impossible to actually focus or care about what I was studying. My grades were the easiest thing to fix, so I started there. My chemistry and math marks were the worst, so I got extra tutoring hours for math and got permission to use the chemistry classroom 3 lunchtimes a week to work on experiments without anyone else there to put me off, steal my shit, or ruin my experiments. Jamie got wind of this arrangement in the second week. The first time, he came in with a bunch of his meathead friends and started throwing my stuff around, knocking my flask over, and generally being a dick. Unluckily for them, the teacher was in his office connected to the classroom by a single door, and he came in when he heard the commotion and gave all of them detention for the rest of the week. He also tried to get me to talk about the bullying, but I never had much trust in adults, so I just shrugged a lot and refused to engage until he let it go. The detentions hadn't gone down well at Jamie's house. I heard a couple people mention that his dad had beat 10 bells of shit out of him. That didn't really surprise me, because you don't become that much of a cunt without some pretty bad examples to follow. But at the time, I was more worried about what that was going to mean for me. Rightly so, as it turned out. About a week after that, Jamie turned up in the chemistry classroom, alone this time. He'd waited until he'd seen the teacher leave. He didn't touch my stuff. He came right up and grabbed me by the throat, pinning me between the L of 2 desks. I'm a tall, athletic girl, but he was at least 6 feet and had the kind of muscle mass teenage boys get when their future includes prison. The only thing he said was, "You're mine now, bitch." For the record, his attacks had never had a sexual component to them before. Sure, some of the rumors involved sex, but I think on some level he genuinely considered me genderless or non-feminine. because of the dead-eyed silence I maintained every time he got at me. Not this time. As his hand squeezed down on my throat hard enough to restrict my breathing, I felt him push his leg between mine and his other hand shoved up under my sweater. All I could think was, I'm going to get raped in a chemistry classroom, and I don't even fucking like chemistry. I wanted to take music, but my parents wanted me on a medical track. I just wanted to play the goddamn saxophone like Kenny G. This is their fault. I'm not sure whether it was because I was pissed about my smooth jazz dreams being crushed, or because I was scared he was going to choke me out. But I clawed and shoved at him and screamed bloody murder right in his face. He was clearly beginning to regret only having two hands. Forced to back off so I didn't scratch his eyes out, he gave me all the opening I needed. I picked up my chemistry textbook, ancient, hardback, weighed about 100 pounds, and smashed it across his face with every bit of strength I possessed. It ripped the back covers straight off. Oh shit, I thought. I'm gonna have to pay for that. Jamie fell sideways, hit the desk with his stupid skull, then hit the floor and several of his teeth clattered across the lino. I went to find some sellotape to repair my textbook. Things escalated rather rapid after that. Ambulances, police, parents, headmaster, social services, the whole 9 yards. His parents were surprisingly sanguine about the whole thing, but on the other hand, it didn't seem to worry them that they were raising a rapist. My parents went into complete meltdown at the school, and my 1 week suspension was a holiday of video games, pizza, and no chores or bedtime. I got to drop chemistry and take saxophone lessons instead, which was an unforeseen bonus. The therapy, not so much. Guilt is a powerful emotion, it turns out. Jamie, meanwhile, lost 6 teeth, had a fractured jaw, and concussion. I didn't see him at that school again. Someone said that after he recovered, he was sent to live with his grandmother a couple of towns over for a fresh start. I eventually went off to university and forgot about him, until a few years ago when I was visiting my parents with my now husband. We went to the local pub and he was there. Neither of us look that different, except he is a lot bigger and has a bunch of tattoos now. As soon as he saw me, he got up and came over and asked politely if he could have a word with me. I was more afraid of a brawl starting inside, especially since my husband would feel like he'd have to get involved. And I work in the emergency services now. I know how nasty things can get. I told him to get the drinks in and led Jamie outside to the smoking deck. To my surprise, once there, he apologized for everything that he'd done to me in school. He said that me hitting him and putting him in the hospital was the best thing anyone had ever done for him, that it changed his life. He got all choked up and showed me a picture of his kids and told me about his construction company. He told me he hadn't seen his parents in almost a decade. Then he bought me and my husband a drink, gave me his card, and told me if I ever needed any work done, he'd give me a discount. It was a nice offer, and I'm glad things worked out for him, but I won't be taking him up on it. For reasons I'm sure he understands, I don't like being alone in a room with men outside my family anymore. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think it was right for Jamie to apologize? Do you believe in second chances? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more tales right here on Foxy Cheating Tales.